Hmm? This is the Good Omens podcast on TV Podcast Industries in association with Podcastica. We're about to delve into Season 2, Chapter 6, the finale, Every Day.
People ever ask for death?
What?
Well, the name of your establishment. Give me coffee or give me death. I assume they always ask for coffee.
They don't ever ask for death, no.
No, I don't suppose they do. So predictable.
Welcome back, fellow angels and demons. This is the Good Omens podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're in association with, of course, Podcastica. We are on the last episode, Chapter 6 of Season 2, Every Day. I am one of your hosts, John, and I am joined by my own ineffable fiancé, Derek.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be back. But it's the finale, John.
I know. And a really teary one as well.
It was a very emotional way to end the show, wasn't it?
Yes, very melancholic, the old music, yes. Yeah. Hankies, streaming eyes, blowing the old nose, you name it.
It's really tough doing a podcast on it when you have to watch these episodes 2 or 3 times, taking notes, and you know what's coming.
Absolutely, but at the same time, there was also still some great chuckle moments in this episode, yes. And of course with Derek Jacobi there as Metatron. Then I absolutely loved that. Really like Derek Jacobi.
He's fantastic, isn't he? He's really, really good. One of those old school actors. Worked alongside Ian McKellen a few times. Been lots of fun in multiple roles, and also was a previous Doctor Who. He played the Master.
He was, yes,
didn't he, in Doctor Who?
He was in Gladiator as well. He was one of the senators.
He's fantastic. He's really, really good.
Yes.
Great to have him in the show. Am I right in saying, as I look at your notes, that you wrote the name as Megatron a few times?
I did. I kind of was thinking a little transformery.
Right. So
that part. So if I do call him Megatron throughout the podcast, don't worry, fellow angels and demons. I haven't gone bonkers. It's just, yes, I guess I have gone bonkers. Well, but yes, it is actually Metatron to who I refer.
Yes, we might as well prepare it up front just in case we get it wrong, because we won't have an opportunity in the future to do the I was wrong, you were right.
Well, that is true.
Sounder in future episodes, because this is our final episode of Good Omens. There are talks, as we mentioned a couple of times in the podcast, that Season 3, the outline has been written. They are ready to start writing episodes of that if it gets a green light from Prime Video, but they need to pay their writers before they start production on any future episodes of Good Omens. But hopefully it won't be as long between Season 2 and Season 3 in the future, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's cross our fingers, toes, arms, legs, you name it. Anything you can cross it.
Absolutely. But the story will be told somehow. Neil Gaiman says it will come out no matter what. If it doesn't get a green light for Season 3 at Prime Video, he has the option to either put it into a book form or turn it into another channel.
Dance.
Potentially interpretive dance. Yes, absolutely. But do make sure you stay subscribed to TV Podcast Industries. You can subscribe to the podcast over on tvpodcastindustries.com, and we will update as often as we can as we hear anything about Good Omens. But you will get the podcast there whenever we do return to Good Omens.
Yes, and of course, we're also on the socials, both Facebook at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. You can also email us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. We are on the dark side of Twitter, which is now called X, at TV Pod Industries.
Is anybody calling it X? I don't think they are.
No, I don't know. No. What a stupid name.
It is.
Anyway, moving on, let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Chapter 6 of Season 2 of Good Omens, every day. Derek, who gave us what, when, where, how, why, but, if, and everything else.
Well, it's been the same pretty much all season. This episode, once again, written for television by Neil Gaiman and John Finneman, based on the book by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, of course. And the episode, once again, for the finale, directed by Douglas McKinnon.
Excellent stuff. I like to see a steady ship, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know you're going to get
a vision.
This type of show with a vision behind it when everybody's behind the scenes is the same all the way through the episodes, of course. And, with 6-episode seasons, we're kind of coming from naturally talking about a show like Gotham when we started podcasting, which had 22 episodes a season. So you couldn't have one person writing every single episode of that or directing every single episode of that, or it would never come out. So
well, that is true.
Nowadays, it probably makes it a little bit less sense than it used to in the past, doing writer and director every episode when you have a 6-episode show, because they tend to be the same writers and directors, but we'll continue to do it as part of our format, right?
Absolutely.
And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the finale of Good Omens Season 2 every day?
Sure. While Aziraphale, Nina and Maggie fend off the demons, Crowley discovers the reason for Gabriel's disappearance. He refused to support a second attempt at Armageddon. Gabriel was demoted from his position as an Archangel, but before his memories could be wiped by Saraquel, both him and his memories cannot be located in heaven. Crowley returns to the bookshop where Aziraphale has successfully fended off the demons and accidentally declared war on hell by using his halo. Beelzebub appears and reveals that Gabriel's memories were hidden in the fly inside the box that Gabriel had been carrying when naked. Gabriel's memories, including those of him conducting a romance with Beelzebub, are restored. He and Beelzebub choose to abandon heaven and hell and leave together for their own versions of heaven and hell, maybe for Alpha Centauri. As the assembled demons and angels squabble over what happens next, the Metatron arrives, sending Michael, Uriel and Saraquel back to heaven as the demons are taken back to hell. The Metatron has a vacancy left by Gabriel and is looking for a new Archangel. He offers Aziraphale Gabriel's former position, as well as the ability to restore Crowley's status as an angel if he chooses to work with him. Meanwhile, Crowley prepares to confess his feelings to Aziraphale after a good talking to by Nina and Maggie. Together at last, Aziraphale informs Crowley that he plans to accept the Metatron's offer, while Crowley asks Aziraphale to abandon heaven like he would do so for hell, so they can become an us, just as Gabriel and Beelzebub did. Caught off guard, Aziraphale asks Crowley to instead return to heaven as an angel to work together, but Crowley refuses the offer, realizing Aziraphale is being manipulated. Aziraphale leaves Earth and Crowley to go to work for heaven, where the Metatron informs him that his task, for which he has the perfect skill set, will be to enact the Second Coming.
Armageddon coming round the mountain again, it looks like.
No, Second Coming is Second Coming of Christ.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Will that be... I can't remember my Bible now.
No, you are correct. The Second Coming would be the Second Coming of Jesus. Yes, that's that would be accurate, but this is the job that Gabriel turned down. The Second Coming would inspire Armageddon at the end of the world.
That is true.
So, yes. We'll talk about it. That's kind of a central point that we need to talk about as we get through our signs of the apocalypse.
Yes. Oh dear, my Sunday school lessons have forsaken me.
That's all right. We never claimed to know everything about the Bible when we started this podcast, so it's okay.
Exactly. Let us get into, though, fellow angels and demons, our top 5 signs of the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. Our big moments from the episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
First off, the first sign of the apocalypse, Nina and Maggie together. Not quite.
Yeah. I thought it was important to talk about Nina and Maggie, since they've been a pretty big focus throughout the season, this idea that Crowley and Aziraphale were going to cover up the miracle that they'd done by getting Nina and Maggie together. So they spent a few episodes trying to get them together. And here they are in the final battle against Shax and her demons in the bookshop. And Aziraphale actually reveals exactly what his plan was. He kind of says, well, I set up the dancing to get you together. It was so much easier in the books of Jane Austen. And that only then do Nina and Maggie realise that they have been a plot all the way through for Crowley and Aziraphale.
Well, also remember not only was it not as easy as Jane Austen made it look, but she was also, he describes to Nina and Maggie, the brains behind the 1857 Clerkenwell diamond robbery, which I quite liked as well. Just pulling through that joke from the dirty donkey between Aziraphale and Crowley, who was completely amazed that she was an author.
It is a good little gag as well, but why would Aziraphale think that that's how they would know Jane Austen?
No, exactly.
But it's still a funny joke. I like it.
But I loved this sort of just, that continued battle with Shax and her demons. And there's just, I love that Maggie is giving it loads to Shax here. Shax sort of retorting with, you're dull and will die a nobody. And Maggie just also inadvertently inviting the hordes in.
Oh,
so
yeah.
We'll come in here and have it.
Say it to my face. Yes.
She's totally on fighting talk. Mm-hmm. But I really like this. I love the fact that as the demons seem to just be getting caught in, firstly, the battery-operated candles and being kind of discorporated as they go up because they're not prepared for it. She seems to be enjoying her leadership role with this rabble less and less.
Absolutely.
And I just really, again, Miranda Richardson, her facial expressions, just her exasperation of the fact that her, elite hordes of demons are not operating as she would envision.
Yes.
I just really enjoyed this being pulled through from the previous episode.
Yeah.
And I loved how, ultimately it does lead to the final discorporation, I'm guessing, of Demon Eric. But I love the visual.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure because Shax survived it.
Yeah.
So maybe they were all just kind of sent back down to hell. But I love the visual of him pulling his halo from out of his head with Aziraphale as he has to mount one final defense of his bookshop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I have to give that shout out to Demon Eric. I like that he came back this episode after we saw him, effectively exploded last episode for asking too many questions of Shax. He's back. That wasn't a continuity error. That's just she wasn't completely destroying him. He mentioned that angels can do that, but demons can't completely destroy another demon. This time we see him leading the charge for a moment, and then when told by Aziraphale that there'll be no trouble if he leaves, Shax does it again to him, explodes him, saying there will be trouble if you come back this way. And then we see him finally, yes, as you say, get discorporated by the angel halo of
I'm guessing so. But the fact that Shax survived it, I guess she could have just been protected from a bookshelf or something like that.
Maybe,
but,
yeah.
I did like the gag in here as well as to why there were so many fire extinguishers as well that were being used after that first line of defense of the battery-operated candles in the pentagram after that had been breached. So, it was really good.
That's based on season 1. That's the bookshop did burn down. So
no, exactly. I just like the gag of that as well. But but ultimately, this is Nina and Maggie coming together to protect themselves, but also Mr. Fell's bookshop. And I do kind of like Nina's questions all the way through, this. She's just kind of, constantly questioning what is going on, what Aziraphale is doing, and so on. And just how, starting to piece together that this all kind of came about that day the electricity went off and they were locked together in the shop. So I kind of liked that. And I liked how they were instrumental in bringing that tear jerk of an ending as well.
Of course. Yeah. Those questions that she's asking of Aziraphale where she's saying, will you just answer a simple question? And Aziraphale responding, going, well, when I hear a simple question, then I will answer them. But none of these questions that you're asking are simple to answer. Did it start the other day when the power went out? Well, no, It started millennia ago. It started way before a time you can even think of. But also, it started when the electricity went out the other day. Really good. But yes, after everything Aziraphale and Crowley have done, what actually gets them together is the two of them standing up against the army of demons. We have that moment for the first time when Nina's saying that Maggie's the bravest person she knows for standing up against these demons. So you can tell there's something there. But, you know, this is not a stereotypical show. This isn't going to be the show where the two leads run off into the sunset in each other's arms with Nina and Maggie here. They kind of go, you meddled in our lives. You tried to make us fall in love with each other. And Nina kind of going, I've literally just broken up with my partner. That's not a time to start a new relationship, regardless of what it would be. I'd be in a rebound mess. So I will wait until I'm ready. And who's to know if Maggie's still waiting for me? And I love Maggie responding, going, I will.
Absolutely.
I will. Shut up. You're not making our point.
She went
right.
off to help her sort of get her oat milks and her almond milks and all that, and cream. As she opens up the coffee shop,
Exactly.
Which also had one of my favourite lines of this episode as well, is from Metatron, as they ask Nina, do they ever ask for death?
That was a great moment. Great moment.
It was really good.
No, all the other good names for coffee shops were taken. No, they don't ask for death.
No, exactly. The other thing from this whole kind of early scene as well was just Gabriel still being hidden from view to Shax as well, where Shax is ordering Aziraphale to give up Gabriel, and he kind of chimes in, does Gabriel with, oh, that's what they call me, I'm Gabriel. She just says, tell that moron to stop interrupting.
Exactly.
Again, Miranda Richardson's delivery for me is just really good, in the same way as for Derek Jacobi as Metatron. I loved his intonation and the turn of phrase and how he delivered it in this. And the same goes for Miranda Richardson as well. Really good.
Yeah, great guest performances in here, as always, for the show. And great characters. But overall, it just to, I guess, resolve this final point, it is Nina and Maggie standing up to Aziraphale and Crowley, basically saying, you meddled in our lives. Don't do that. If we happen to get together, that's fine. But it's not happening right now. I just broke up with my partner from Nina, and explaining that the reason why they hadn't got together before now is because they'd never thought to stop and talk to each other. And now Crowley and Aziraphale need to do that. They need to take a moment to talk to each other. I love Crowley's response to that is, we've talked to each other for millennia. I say something really smart, and Aziraphale says something that's really funny, even though he doesn't know that he's funny. Yeah. Like, I love that, because, again, it has a little insight into
it's almost a little bit of, turning the tables, what they have at least gotten out of this experience, is that, well, you never say what you're really feeling, and it needs to be out in the open as they kind of turn that matchmaking that Crowley and Aziraphale were doing back on them.
Exactly.
So yeah, really good. Really enjoyed that. On to our second sign of the apocalypse,
yes,
no doubt.
Absolutely.
What happened to Gabriel? A love won. I really thought this was quite good, actually. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting it to be delivered in this succinct way.
Yes.
At all. I thought it was actually going to take up the majority of this episode. But I really liked it from the point that Crowley arrives in heaven, where we get to
pure Muriel, not understanding at all what she's just done.
Well, just the two of them. You have this demon, and then you have the most naive, purest 37th grade angel, in Muriel, who's like, you're not really under arrest, are you? And he's like, no. And she says, I'm helping you, aren't I? And he's like, yes. Just like really good. Yeah. But it allows Crowley to get the intel on what happened to Gabriel, which is Gabriel stops the ending of everything and the final victory of heaven to allow for eternity. And why is that? I mean, we'll come to it a bit later in one of our other signs of the apocalypse. But ultimately, it is because of love. It is because of a relationship or a romance that he has developed over time from an initial meeting with Beelzebub here. in terms of standing each other's armies down and sort of bringing about a truce at the last apocalypse. I like the little touchback to season 1.
Yeah.
And then the next time we see Beelzebub, she goes, I just thought I'd change my appearance. I've been the same for the last 6,000 years, you know. So nice and efficiently done there.
The recast of the role, yes.
But I loved how it all came about through this gift from Beelzebub, a fly, as they are the Lord of Flies. And that was, again, another little Doctor Who reference here. It's bigger on the inside.
It is, yes.
As you get this little fly being put into the matchbox that's got the Resurrectionist on it, as they are sharing a drink in the Resurrectionist, as they meet again, and they develop the Buddy Holly song as a messaging system because it contains all this information.
Yeah.
So I like that, and I liked how it played out, where you have Gabriel kind of remembering as he's shooting through a sort of a blue tube, and John Hamm just has loads of really strange expressions on his face as he's going through it, which was kind of quirky, and just kind of made me giggle inside.
Absolutely.
So I really liked that.
Yeah.
I loved as well. This was where Metatron for me, just the floating head there, and as Gabriel is being demoted, being kicked out of heaven, but he kind of takes matters into his own hands by putting his memories into the fly and writing on the box and saying, I'm in the fly. But just that he gets out of heaven before they're able to actually wipe his memories and almost formally demote him. And you have Saraquel going, he's not in heaven, and neither are his memories. I can't locate them. And you have Metatron as all these angels are panicking, where he's like, just stop being so wet.
Absolutely. Go and find him. You don't need to turn on an alarm and alert everybody else to your failure, basically. Go and find him. Yes.
I just really, really enjoyed this. You know, don't be so wet. As you've got all these panicky angels, like, where is Gabriel? What's happened to him? And I just really, really enjoyed it.
I like that. I also like the joke of why Gabriel's actually naked. It's because he's been demoted to a lower level admin angel than Muriel, and the outfit that he's wearing, since it's tailor-made for an Archangel, is the wrong type of outfit for him to be wearing, so he has to be naked now.
He has officially gone down to a junior recording angel, 38th class.
There you go. He has to wait for his new outfit. He won't always be naked, but he will have to wait for his new outfit. So,
Muriel is 38th. It's 37th class.
Yes, she is. So even she's going. I didn't realize there was anything lower than
exactly.
me. So is the punishment here justified for Gabriel and what he did? They're effectively saying that the Archangel of Heaven, who has the right to make decisions since he's kind of a leading angel, has made a decision they don't agree with, so they've demoted him to the lowest level of angel possible instead of sending him to hell or sending him to Earth.
Yeah, well, Saraquel says it's for refusing to use his celestial power. So
yeah, because they can't go ahead with the apocalypse without his approval, effectively. So they're taking it all away.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but they're not punishing him by sending him to hell, and they're removing his memories so he doesn't know that this is what he's done. Okay. Yeah. So with all that resolved, effectively, and his memories all back, he's meeting up with Beelzebub, and effectively they're declaring their love for each other, and that they will spend all of their time together. I love that they're making references to the fact that anytime Gabriel is with Beelzebub, it's heaven for him, and Beelzebub saying it'll be my own special hell when I'm with Gabriel. So they're effectively going off to their versions of heaven and hell, as you said in your synopsis, John. But I kind of like that even though Beelzebub is going to spend time with Gabriel, she's still calling it her own special hell.
Yes, yeah, no, it was. It was just, I think just the fact that you see that they went from this formal meeting of an Archangel and the Lord of Flies to gradually becoming acquaintances. Yeah. You have Gabriel, showing off his statue to Beelzebub, who then says, do you fancy a pint? And then, all of this kind of stuff. I thought it was really well done. And that moment where, wherever Beelzebub is my heaven. And, her kind of response to that is wherever Gabriel is my special little hell.
Yeah.
It was that was pretty cute. And
I do like them even bonding over the song. When Beelzebub is trying to explain what a song is to Gabriel, ooh, I like this song. What's that? The noise that's in the background. That's called the song. It's like the first time Gabriel's ever been aware of a song playing. And then just the fact that the two of them nod their heads in time to this song makes it a special song for both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought that was really cute. And then off they go into the sunset, never to return again. So is what they say. So we won't get John Hamm if there is a season 3 of Good Omens, it seems.
It would seem so, yeah. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
But there's always a possibility.
It's all in the writing, so there's always a possibility.
Definitely.
That he can come back. Hey, he could come back and play a different character. That's happened this season as well. So he doesn't have to come back and play Gabriel. It would just be, since he was so central this season, it would be a surprise.
Yeah.
Then again, Miranda Richardson was so central in season 1 and she came back as another central character this time. So yeah.
Exactly. So I think on that potentially apocalyptic bomb, we should move on to our third sign of the apocalypse, which is the angels of heaven versus the demons of hell, all in Aziraphale's bookshop.
Yes.
Here. So we have the usual suspects of Uriel, Michael, and Saraquel in there, coming down to sort of, now that Gabriel has been found, but you also have the demons of Dagon, Further, and Beelzebub, along with Shax as well, who has been woken up by Beelzebub. And again, you have Shax calling Beelzebub this traitorous demon, and they're both wanting a bit of them, the demons to bring them down to the devil for punishment. And then the angels sort of getting all uppity saying, no, we will take them, but we reserve the right to send them to hell as punishment for the betrayal that has happened here. And
it's kind of like they want the credit for sending them to hell rather than just them going to hell. So it's like they want the administrative rights on that to mark what happened to them.
It is really good. Yeah. And I do love the fact that, you've kind of got Crowley and Aziraphale sort of as the referees in the middle here, as they're all shouting over one another. I loved Crowley pointing to the demons going, you idiots sent this idiot, pointing to Shax, to lead these idiots, meaning all the demons that have died. But yes, there's a lot of back and forth here until, Aziraphale asks Gabriel, well, what does he want and what does Beelzebub want to do?
Yeah.
And leading to, I guess, the cutesy, your heaven is my hell and vice versa,
Yeah.
But I love that with all this squabbling going on, you have the voice of God in Metatron coming in to effectively pull them apart and send the angels back up to heaven.
Love it.
And I loved the joke here where they don't recognize him because he's got a body and legs and he's not a floating head. I absolutely loved this.
In fairness, I had to get John to explain this to me because when I watched it, I was kind of going, this whole series has been about them not being able to recognize Gabriel because of the miracle that they did. Why don't they recognize the Metatron? They've worked with him for millions of years, but as John explained to me, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's just funny because they've only ever seen him as a gigantic head floating around in heaven.
That's the thing. It's like, and not in corporeal form. So it's just like, who are you? It is so Monty Python, ridiculously stupid, but hilariously funny to me. So I thought this was hilarious because just the look on Metatron's face is like, I can't believe I'm hearing this. I mean, he is really ruthless as Metatron here. And I mean, Derek Jacobi does ruthlessness so well. And you see it later in him talking with Aziraphale as well. And to me, it felt like the Master in Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
Just that manipulativeness about him.
Yeah. But I loved that throwaway where he just looks at the angels and goes, don't be so stupid. You don't have any of these kind of powers at all. You're talking piffle.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Go back to heaven with you and shut up and stop threatening people, basically.
Well, that's it. And even with his put down of pure Muriel, where it's like, right, you lot back up to heaven, except the dim one, pointing to Muriel. Exactly. Yeah. But that for him, Michael, Uriel, and Saraquel are all dim ones as well. Mm-hmm. He is just so obnoxiously great in this. It's really good.
Yeah. And I'd include Aziraphale in that as well.
Yeah.
That would be his feeling about Aziraphale. It feels like he seems to be someone that believes he's more supreme than everybody else because he is the voice of God, because he carries the word of God to the rest of the angels.
Exactly.
So that is his position. But yeah, I love how he treats the other angels. That sends off the angels. That's how they get out of this situation, or get out of here and go back to heaven. But the demons is also an interesting resolution to what they're fighting for, or fighting against, I guess. They want to take Crowley and Aziraphale back and punish them in hell, and then realize that by Beelzebub being this traitor, that this could be the path for Shax to finally get a higher position in hell. If she goes back to the Dark Council and tells them that they've had this spy inside who's had connection directly with heaven all along, this could get Shax a much higher position, the former position of Beelzebub down in hell.
Exactly.
And Furfur, of course, is the one that's been riding her coattails all the way along for the many years. So he's kind of going, yes, actually, I'll follow down with you and see what I get out of this as well. So so off they all go together to claim their new positions in hell.
Yeah.
It's a good way of resolving their story as well.
Definitely. It was good to see Dagon in there as well.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't really seen her much in this season.
Not much this season, no, but it's good to see, those characters in there. I didn't even call out earlier on that we did actually get to see the them. I'd love to see what happens to the them. We did get to see those in the memories of Gabriel. We did see them all around. I know it's a flashback to season 1, but just nice to see them again at the end of the season. So.
Absolutely. But speaking of Metatron's Megatronic manipulations, let us go to the fourth sign of the coming apocalypse, which is Metatron's offer to Aziraphale. And again, it's no different from him saying the dim one about Muriel, or just the kind of disregard of Michael, Uriel, and Saraquel.
Yeah.
This, you just see him working the room, or should I say Wickbus Street, and I just thought it was so good. He's playing, he knows Aziraphale has feelings for Crowley, playing up to the fact that, it may be unusual, if the former angel Crowley, comes back to work with you, given he's been a demon for the last however many thousands of years, but you would have that power to be able to restore him to angelic form, probably knowing full well he would never want to, because of what he's carved out down here. Because he said, I've been observing you. You are able to create a partnership with the demon Crowley.
Yeah.
And, so you can just sense from how he's talking to Aziraphale. He's watched him. He knows the weak points. It knows why, in a sense, what will transpire later when Aziraphale asks Crowley about if he wants to be restored. It's but that also Aziraphale would want that because of his, despite in a sense having partially fallen with the sort of the lighter grey around the edges that Aziraphale employs. At heart, and as he says to Crowley later on, we're the good guys. It's still that good guys, bad guys kind of mentality there. It's just Crowley is in that grey space of that. Exactly. I just loved how you got that sense of the manipulation going on between Metatron towards Aziraphale.
Well, even just the fact that he's really dismissive of Crowley as well. He even calls out Crowley's the one that used to ask all those stupid questions, which was the reason given for him being a fallen angel. He probably never wanted him there, but he absolutely needs Aziraphale for his plan to carry out, this plan that he has, which Gabriel stopped, which is the second coming.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and by him saying that Aziraphale's skills are perfectly placed for that, he gives some kind of guff, I think, to Aziraphale, saying, well, you're a natural leader and everybody respects your opinion and everybody respects your decisions. But actually what he's saying is you're quite easily manipulated. And that's what I need as the fourth member of this council that have to make this decision. And the Archangel, which would be his new position, you won't refuse that because you believe in the true goodness of heaven, That's what Crowley sees straight through. And that's why I kind of like this moment. And it does take kind of a much more serious turn towards the end of the episode. We've talked about lots of the humour that's gone out throughout this series, but as it gets to the end of the episode, there are moments here that feel like they're out of other works of Michael Sheen and David Tennant.
Absolutely.
There's some very serious moments, and they work really well. The two of them are great actors, regardless of whether they're doing drama or comedy. But I thought from that moment of Metatron's offer, how happy Aziraphale is, and him finally getting this offer that he can go back to heaven with this amazing position, and that he can bring Crowley with him, and everything be forgiven. As he kind of skips down the street to this happy idea, that's kind of where the episode changes, and this season finale moment happens, really. Yeah?
Well, that's it. Like, the tonal shift in the episode is huge. It's spectacular, and it needs to have the likes of Michael Sheen and David Tennant in order to shift it on that axis and be convincing, because I loved how it was structured as well. You have Metatron going and basically taking Aziraphale out of the bookshop to relay this deal that he wants him to accept, this offer, and to be the new Archangel to replace Gabriel. At the same time, while you have Nina and Maggie coming in, as we said earlier, to effectively to turn the tables by saying, well, what about your feelings to your partner, Aziraphale? And you need to tell him how you feel and be open about it. And it all comes back, I guess, to our fifth sign of the apocalypse of,
there's so much of a twist here, we had to put it into a new point.
Like, which would say a love lost, we could have been an us, because this is where the ideas of what you would want for your other half come crashing all around both of them. You have got Crowley wanting to be open to be an us, that, both him and Aziraphale, they've had and carved out this niche on Earth, being who they are, but doing things for themselves where needed. And you have this lifetime ambition of the power and sanctity of heaven taking over in Aziraphale, and him wanting that for Crowley, to be restored to his angelic form, but it just not being what the other wants or is ready for at this moment. I think in Crowley's case, he doesn't want that. He sees the manipulation, as you say. For Aziraphale, it's actually putting his wants onto Crowley. And also not really recognizing his own naivety. I mean, in a sense, I love how Michael Sheen here plays this, because, and he does all the way through, it's that stuttering, it's that umming and erring that he so often does as Aziraphale. And it's that indecisiveness, that looking for that lead, from God or from Metatron or from Gabriel or from Michael. It's always about doing the right thing. And he thinks that Crowley wants that.
Well, exactly. It goes to the whole conversation that's been going on all season between the two of them, all the things we've learned in the past, and this turning away that we've seen from Aziraphale as he learns more and more what heaven is really like. And in this moment, the conversation between the two of them, Crowley is saying to him, but I turned down hell immediately when they made me an offer to come back in a better position. And Aziraphale saying, well, of course you did. They're the bad guys. Throughout this season, what we've been learning is heaven is also heaven, and heaven has its own agenda that Aziraphale can't align with. He can no longer align with heaven being this utterly glorious, always good choice, always just the good thing, and hell being the bad thing. Both sides of this are,
as Crowley says, toxic. Heaven and hell are toxic.
Exactly.
He wants it to be an us because these other sides that they've been placed on are toxic to them. And I really...
And toxic to everything. It's not even that. Aziraphale seems to feel if he gets this position in heaven, he can change heaven, but despite incontrovertible evidence that somebody who tried to do that in the Archangel Gabriel going, there is not going to be another Armageddon. We are going to stop this right now and let's move on to talking about the cleaning plans for the rest of the week. He tried to do that and was demoted and stripped of everything, including all of his memories.
Yeah.
So Crowley's seen all of that, and Aziraphale still thinks, oh no, I can make a difference if I just join them and go back to my old position.
And as you say, that heaven and hell are toxic, that, he can't change it. It's the righteousness imbued within Aziraphale. And as Crowley puts it, I love the line, when heaven ends earth, death will be just as bad as if hell did it. Like, there's no good death.
There's no good Armageddon. There's no good
Armageddon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just like really, really good. And because you have the moment where Aziraphale, maybe it's its one last chance where, you idiot, we could have been us, as Crowley kisses Aziraphale. Yeah. And immediately, this moment possibly where it could have switched back and you have Metatron, walking in to come back and take Aziraphale to heaven. And again, you have this, indecision, this awkwardness and stuttering from Aziraphale. Again, just I think so well portrayed by Michael Sheen here. And in the end, he's whisked off to the elevator to go up to heaven. I mean, it's with Crowley on the other side of the road. It's just a real downer for the season, but it's really kind of the tragedy of love. I mean, this is the tragedy. This is Shakespearean tragedy for this season, which is a love that could have been, is being snuffed out by the toxicity of competing sides.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
It is really interesting. It was really well done as well.
Yeah, and to have those final moments as we see Crowley going back to his apartment in his car that had been his home for the last couple of years. I do like that little joke about that. Can I go back to my apartment? And Shaq's going, nobody cares. Just do whatever you want. I thought that was a good little joke. But no, sorry, the ending itself over the credits as Crowley is driving and Aziraphale is traveling up in the elevator to heaven, both side by side, both thinking and contemplating about what's going on, I suppose. But it's Crowley, even after all of these millennia, unable to convince Aziraphale of this coming apocalypse and that he's not getting this great reward. He is being used as another pawn by heaven. Even after everything Aziraphale has seen, he still can't make that leap to go against heaven in totality, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Which is where we leave it for season 2 of Good Omens. Hopefully there's going to be a season 3. Hopefully we'll see the resolution to this story, because it does now feel like a cliffhanger. It's interesting. We talked about it last episode, in episode 5, that we didn't think the season was going to complete in the same way that season 1 did. And actually it's been left with a big cliffhanger for these two characters because of this approaching apocalypse. We didn't have that kind of cliffhanger at the end of season 1. They'd resolved everything, and now they were going to spend time, enjoying the Ritz and having a nice breakfast and having some drinks, That's kind of where the story ended. There wasn't this oncoming apocalypse. In fact, they wrapped it up quite with that in season 1, where there was another book of nice and accurate prophecies, if you remember.
Well,
but those are burned.
And I do like that they have the reprise of Tori Amos's Nightingale song, and certainly because you just, there is that moment in that conversation between Aziraphale and Crowley where he says, listen, as nothing. And he says, there's no nightingales, So I liked how that kind of closed it out with the Tori Amos song. And it's an ending, but it's not a happy one.
Yeah.
They're both both protagonists are still alive in the same way as with season 1. The them are still alive and they have been, taken out and it's a happy ending. They've been extracted from, their role in Armageddon. But this is just on the other side of that chart, which is, it's a sad ending because they're both still alive, but going in opposite directions.
Exactly.
And the great thing about the ending is, you can see in Aziraphale is like, have I made the right decision sort of etched across his face in terms of how he's contemplating it.
Yeah.
And almost with Crowley, it's, I would say first and foremost, he's just mad at Aziraphale, but also how can I get him out of this? Probably.
Yeah. Or a stupid angel not listening to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Any notes, any other thoughts about the episode that we haven't touched upon, John?
Yeah, just a Messatron line as well after, they've decided to banish Gabriel and Messatron just goes, there's one fallen angel, looks like there was a mistake, a second fallen angel, and it would look like we've got institutional issues, again.
Yeah.
The covering up, it's the PR of this council, that Gabriel is just simply just being moved out of existence, really.
Yes, absolutely. Nice little line there. The only other thing I just wanted to mention, because it was just a very tiny little touch. Did you notice when Nina and Maggie were sitting talking to Crowley, and Maggie says something slightly out of place? Nina responds to her going, "Oh, don't worry, Angel," to her.
Yes.
Just a little touch that a similar thing that Crowley had said about Aziraphale being his angel, and had references to their relationship. But I thought it was fun that they included that between Nina and Maggie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Derek, what do you think overall for this season and for the episode?
I really like this as a wrap up to the season. And I feel like in the back of my mind, I'm going, we'll definitely get a third season, so that'll be okay. When we finished up season 1, I was really satisfied with the ending of that because I was satisfied with the ending of the book and thought we'd never ever see these characters back again. And this season has been an interesting experience, but it does feel like half of a story. Just because this felt like the adventures of Aziraphale and Crowley to get them to this end point, I can't imagine it's going to stay and be left like this. Neil Gaiman has said many times, as I've repeated many times, it won't be left like this. The story will be told some way in the future, which I'm really glad about. And I'm going to now take that as a promise, that it will get done at some point in the future. Because if it ended like this and there was no possibility of a future, it's a really sad ending for these characters. But it's been lots of fun spending time with them throughout the season. I think overall, the season had some really fun stories told in the past of Aziraphale and Crowley. It feels like the adventures of the two of them rather than just Good Omens Part 2 or Book 2. It felt more about those adventures. They did wrap it up quite well for me in this final episode as well. I think the story of how Gabriel got to where he was, I thought was told quite well on screen. And I think it worked out overall as a good capper on this second season of Good Omens. But there better be a third season. John, how about yourself? How did the season wrap up for you with this final episode?
Well, I really enjoyed this final episode. I thought it was ballsy. I'd give this 5 battery-operated candles out of 5. It is really risky and ballsy to finish this on a down note.
Absolutely.
But the richness of storytelling is that there are stories that end with a down note. That forever, Aziraphale is an angel and Crowley is a demon. No matter how much the grey edges sort of start to meet, and that like any good tragic story, it's about how these two sides become incompatible and overwhelm the individual, like with Romeo and Juliet. So I mean, I kind of just took it from that Romeo and Juliet kind of storyline, really, and so I liked it. But I can see it is a challenge. It is, because I think there's a big tonal shift here with that ending in the whole, from across the whole season. You know, it's dark humor that's being applied here across the season. This is tragedy.
Yes.
And between two people that everyone knows and loves within this show and wants to see them together, as like I do.
Yeah.
To
end it with the kiss as well,
and
as they finish, like they finally kiss for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's at the moment that they break is, as you say, it's ballsy. It's a big move to do. I'm not sure what the reaction of the fandom is right now. I think they're all kind of just praying for a third season.
Well, and I think it's been mentioned already, and you know, again, remember, this is a treatment from a book that had an ending, and we got that in season 1. If you're moving it on, I mean, I would love to see them back, absolutely. But that is the book, and Neil Gaiman is taking it on from that book, but still with the heart and soul of Terry Pratchett coming along with him. But it does have to be something different, and it's got to focus on something, and in a sense it is Aziraphale and Crowley. So at this moment I believe the word that there is going to be a season 3. And so I'm happy with this season, and I'm happy with this episode immensely. I think just in and of itself, I loved covering season 1 because it was so different from all the shows that we covered, and it still continues through season 2 and with our podcasts. I have an energy covering this show because it is so funny, but coupled to that are also the other sides of ourselves, of sadness, tragedy, and so on that comes with it, or just, you know, brutality in Metatron in speaking to Muriel as, you know, except the dim one. You know, Muriel is lovely, yet Metatron is, I'm the voice of God, you're dim, and that's what's decided. You know, it's just that preachiness of it. But we're talking about, you know, the topics of heaven and hell anyway. There's a lot of preachiness that happens.
Just a bit, yes.
So, but so, you know, that is an important flavour to this, because that is Metatron. He delivers the word of God. However uncompromising, like we saw it with Job, it is, or whether it's as directedly personal towards Muriel as the dim one. So anyway, it's just that whole collection of everything. I just think it pulled off so well with such good humour, and even though this is a big tonal shift, I absolutely believe that there will be a season 3. You know, on our Star Wars podcast, we say, in Dave Filoni we trust. Well, on the Good Omens podcast, in Neil Gaiman we trust.
Yes, you do.
You know,
yes, you do.
Look how he held out on the Sandman until he got the right thing.
Yes, we also said that in the Sandman podcast as well. Yes, in Neil Gaiman we trust always.
Exactly.
And I do want to say, I know Muriel had a really hard time here, but she also read the first chapter of a book.
Yes.
They're like people, only you can read them. I love that explanation. And she got Aziraphale and Co, the bookshop.
Yes, she's looking after
as well.
it.
So, liked that. She at least had a little bit of a happier ending than everybody else. So she gets to stay on Earth, which she was very excited to be on. And then she gets to take care of the bookshop. So,
for me, this episode, 5 battery-operated candles out of 5. And overall, loved this episode, loved this season. I liked how it was done. Yeah,
good stuff. We get some thoughts on the episodes and on the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
We seem to have accidentally named this section the "You were right, we were wrong" section, mostly because we like playing the sounder from episode 1, and we never got to see Aziraphale do the dance.
No, we didn't. We thought Crowley. We were going to get that. Or at least a flashback to it, but no, we did not.
So, for one last time.
Our feedback section.
Yes.
You were right. You were right. I was wrong. You were right.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Well, fellow demons and angels, first up an email from Christina on Black Girl Couch Reviews on the season. She says, "My ineffable husbands, hello loves, wanted to take a moment to drop a line before you finish the season, which you will before moi. I truly enjoy getting your insight into the episodes, as you have a unique insight lacking from us Americans. I am enjoying this season, though 6 episodes is simply not enough time to enjoy Crowley and Aziraphale, but I'll take what I get. The noises Crowley made when he birthed the universe, followed by no more talk of dying in that high-pitched leprechaun dance, remain 2 of my favourite Crowley moments. For Aziraphale, his detective bit and the thirst stare when Crowley was schooling Muriel are the highlights. I never watched Mad Men, so John Hamm isn't as familiar an actor to me, but I like his comedic style. He's like 6'2". I could climb that tree anytime he asks and swing blissfully. Couldn't we all? Couldn't we all, Christina? I think. Christina goes on to say, I have questions for you. How do you feel about Crowley, as seen through their history, continuously being the one that acts against his directive, suffering the harsher punishment, whereas Aziraphale remains relatively unscathed, even in the present, as he has been ostracized but not cast down for his actions during season 1? Very good questions. Yes, I think possibly after this episode, is it the grander plan of God? Because a lot of it is coming from, Michael, Uriel, Saraquel, and Gabriel, as that council of 4, but ultimately presided over by the Metatron. So I do wonder whether seeing this move by the Metatron to enlist and recruit Aziraphale to Gabriel's former position as Archangel, I wonder if it's that, larger grand plan of heaven, and that's why he has been relatively unscathed, whereas Beelzebub, Shax, Dagon, the devil, I just guess they like a bit of S&M.
Well, basically, I guess the reaction from hell is swift and very recognizable, and I suppose, to Crowley's point, heaven's reaction and heaven's punishment may not be as recognizable, but is also as difficult and is also as bad. So, exactly as you say, if Aziraphale is responsible for Armageddon and the death of the entire planet and all the humans on it, that'll be far worse than burning in hell for 5 or 6 years, which
Absolutely.
could occasionally have been the punishment. We saw Crowley was punished for being nice once, that he disappeared off to hell for a while. But I would say, the punishment that effectively heaven is giving to Aziraphale could be far worse than that in Aziraphale's head, right?
Absolutely. Christina also continues with her questions. Do you think, despite their connection to Earth, they feel a compulsion to be in the thick of what happens within heaven and hell? Crowley in episode 1 seemed eager for news indicating a missing policy, despite winning. Aziraphale hops at the chance to help Gabriel, but does he think by helping him, this may be an inroad back into favour? Is Aziraphale capable of such impure motives? I think so. He's far more vain than he would acknowledge, the same way Crowley is far more softer than he portrays. Keep up the great works as always, Christina, aka Black Girl Couch. Great stuff, Christina. I feel that certainly Aziraphale has a compulsion to be in the thick of what happens in heaven, but he does like his earthbound status as well, and his friendship, his relationship with Crowley. But I think Aziraphale has this overriding thought of being in Team Heaven.
Yes.
Because he's the one that needs to be led, that needs his hand held. So, for me, one of the great quotes of this season is when Crowley says, I'm a demon, I work to hell, but I do stuff for myself. Yeah. And then Aziraphale picks that up and realizes there are these softer grey areas. In his case, slightly lighter grey, for Crowley, darker grey. So I kind of like that. And I do think that his time on Earth has made Aziraphale more capable of impure motives by simply through that reasoning of Crowley.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah. I'm still a demon, but I do stuff for myself. Mm-hmm. And as Aziraphale says, I'm still an angel, but I do stuff for myself, like his incessant book collection.
Exactly.
Or, his little slightly grey white lies.
Yes, exactly. Good stuff. Thanks so much, Christina. Yeah. I've been listening along to Christina's coverage on Black Girl Couch Reviews. And while you say that we have an interesting perspective on Good Omens, because we're not American, you also have a really interesting perspective. Absolutely. Because you are American.
Exactly.
It makes it really fun to listen to. So thanks so much, Christina. We got an email in from Lee, who sent an email in through talk@podcastica.com. I completely forgot that you could get in contact with us for the entire season of the show, John, that you could get in contact with us through talk@podcastica.com. You can just email them any messages that you have through there, and Jason picks them up and sends them on to us.
Excellent stuff.
I should have said that. So inundate Jason with loads of emails saying how much you enjoyed Good Omens podcast from TV Podcast Industries. He'll love to hear it.
Good. Yeah, absolutely.
But Lee sent an email in through there. Lee says, I've been really enjoying listening to your coverage of Good Omens 2 and wanted to write in before you tie it up with the season finale. Personally, I thought the season was utterly delightful. Lots of fun and some comfortably nestled in bits of heart. All the returning cast were in top form, and with any new additions fit in so well. Mrs. Sandwich was a highlight of episode 5 for me. John Finnemore also proved to be an excellent choice of writing partner for the project. I found his Job minisode to be the strongest of the three, and his humour is a great addition to the scripts. According to Neil Gaiman, John wrote Jim's introductory scenes and really set the tone for the character, one of the funniest of the season in my opinion. It is definitely more a character-driven than plot-driven story, which I don't think we see very often on TV shows like this, but it's a strength of Neil Gaiman's writing. While it would have been nice to see Aziraphale and or Crowley piece together the answer to the Jim mystery, maybe an opportunity for some reflection on their own relationship to be the key that unlocked the answer about the other demon-angel pair, it was still a success in my eyes. It was a joy to watch, and that ending left me beyond excited for a possible season 3. I watched all 6 episodes in one go, so spreading out the season with your podcast has been a real treat. Fingers crossed we'll eventually get a season 3, so I can do the same again. Best, Lee. Thanks so much, Lee. It's great that you joined us for the podcast. I know a lot of people have watched the episodes in one weekend. I'm sure it was probably built that way in some ways, but I think because it was originally set up as a show at the BBC and going on Prime Video, we were going, right, we're going to treat this as a weekly show. And I have really enjoyed spreading this out for the last 6 weeks.
Definitely.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, also, getting that mystery to Gabriel, to Jim, through their own relationship, as with Gabriel and Beelzebub. I think that would have been really good. And I can, I understand why people wanted them to piece this together in some way. But I'm also happy with how it's done. So I'm right there with you, Lee.
Yeah. Lots of options. And a good option chosen, but there could have been other options, I guess. Is
absolutely.
The best way to say it. Thanks so much for listening along, Lee. Hope you'll join us for season 3 or something else on TV Podcast Industries that might take your fancies.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. We also got an email from Coffee and Vodka on episode 6. It says, "Greetings, fellow sadly separated defenders. You were right. You were right. I was wrong. You were right. How could I ever doubt Mr. Gaiman's ability to beautifully close a story, up to and including a touching homage to Staged at the very end.
Very good.
Every question answered, no hanging threads. Nina and Maggie were not only left in a good place, but proved to be the moral judges of those who would manipulate them. Gabriel, in a natural change of heart after events of season 1, decided Armageddon to be a waste of time and effort. Even fell in love with Beelzebub in the bargain. To be honest, I guess I do have a favourite character, that being Muriel, and she got the bookshop. Nice. Even the song was explained. Awesome, all the way round. It wasn't great to see how Crowley and Aziraphale ended up, but between this and the Second Coming sting, it all but angelically sings of a third season. I mean, once Aziraphale remembers all that has to happen to the world prior to the Second Coming, he can't be on board. And who is he going to call but Crowley? It almost writes itself. This was one of the best series I've watched in a long while, and look forward to what you have to say about both this episode and the full season. 5 mind-filed flies, rigidly rejected romances, and gormless tome traders out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and vodka.
Excellent coffee and vodka. I like gormless tome traders to describe Muriel now dealing in books.
Exactly.
Oh, poor Muriel.
Poor Muriel. Great stuff, coffee and vodka. Yeah, totally agree with you on the 5 out of 5 for this episode.
Absolutely.
Really well done. And I think, as I say, that little twist of Nina and Maggie being, the moral judges on those who have been morally manipulating them, is just
or immorally manipulating them. I'm sorry. Immorally, yes.
Well, the intent was right,
yes.
At least, or was it? Because I would say it was for love, but actually it was to hide the fact they'd done the miracle, ultimately, in the end. But you're right. I think it's a really good sort of, punch of humanism into this angelic and demonic series.
Absolutely. Good catch on the homage to Staged, where they have each of them on their own separate camera, separated right at the end of the episode. I wouldn't have caught that was from Staged, but it makes total sense that's the reference. Brilliant stuff. Thanks for joining us on the journey as well, Coffee Vodka.
Absolutely.
It was great to get your feedback on each of the episodes.
Good stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
We also got an email from Lara Willie Swink who says, "Oh, what just happened? I'm going to have to give the whole season a second watch, but I don't even know how to feel about this finale. After 5 whole episodes of humour, levity and whimsy, and the last 2 episodes filled with romance to the end with our ineffable duo essentially splitting up, and after finally confronting the feelings they had for each other, I was crestfallen. My daughter definitely was unhappy. I know our angel and demon won't stay apart forever, but what a way to leave us after the heartwarming ending of season 1. And if we don't get a season 3 to resolve this whole bombshell, I will never forgive Amazon. As for the episode, I recognised the Metatron when he walked into the bookshop. Why didn't the other angels? Was he not also at Gabriel's trial? I'm sure that he's up to no good. He gave Crowley quite the side-eye before he made his proposal to Aziraphale. I like the unexpected romance between Gabriel and Beelzebub. Love apparently changed him from a pompous douchebag into a decent guy. At least he'll be able to retain his sense of style. But they get to be the first outed divine and demonic couple and not Crowley and Aziraphale. They just got together 5 minutes ago while our boys have been playing cat and mace for millennia. Overall, I enjoyed this season. I was happy to step back into one of Gaiman's more cheerful worlds, despite the ending, and explore Crowley and Aziraphale's history and character growth some more. But I did go back and watch parts of season 1 and felt it was a fuller, more fleshed out story. I did hear in an interview with Neil that this season is a quieter, more romantic season, and should a season 3 come around, it will not be quiet, gentle, and romantic. As for my daughter, Layla's review, apart from the ending, she was delighted. I thought I'd share that she has a theory before the fall. Crowley was actually the Archangel Raphael. She says he's the only Archangel who hasn't appeared on the show, and she thinks that Crowley was once one of the most powerful angels. Should we ever get a season 3? I guess we'll find out. Thank you again for another season of excellent coverage, John and Derek, and Kristen Spirit. Lara Willie Swink.
Great stuff, Laura. I really hope Layla's theory pans out there, and tell her to sort of dig deep, because I'm convinced we're going to get a season 3 on this.
Yes.
And hopefully, if it's not going to be as romantic, gentle, or quiet, it's going to be certainly bigger, badder, and better than this one. But I hope she's. I hope your daughter is doing well after the shock of the ending. And I like the theory around Archangel Raphael, because yes, we haven't had Raphael yet, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
And that could be a good one. And given that we do see Crowley creating the universe, or designing it, I should say, that's pretty powerful stuff. And certainly then if you start asking pesky questions, as Metatron says, then, I guess...
Did he have his mind wiped and sent down to hell?
I'll have to now read up on Raphael. The angels, I don't know them.
Yes, yeah. There's a few even on the show that I didn't know before
Other
they
than
were
Gabriel,
announced on the
actually.
show. Yes. Well, you remember Michael, though?
And Michael, yes. I remember Michael as well.
But Saraquel, Uriel, and...
no.
And Muriel.
Yeah.
Even.
No.
Yes.
And hopefully as well, Laura, we've maybe explain the Metatron gag. I think it's just a gag. I think it is a silly, ridiculous gag of Monty Python style stupidness. Because it had me laughing all the way through. And
I didn't get it if it was a gag. Now, remember, there is also kind of a running joke as well, that angels and demons aren't recognizing each other. Furfur had gone to Crowley, that, remember, we worked alongside each other back at the fall and didn't recognize him. Here we had
Gabriel overall but that was with the miracle. There was an explanation behind that.
And didn't Saraquel even say in this episode to Crowley that they'd worked together on the creation of a universe at the beginning?
Yes.
And Crowley didn't recognize her either, so it could be an ongoing thing of angels and demons on Earth not being able to recognize each other in some way unless they have a specific connection, or it could just be a good gag.
Yeah, it probably is the longevity of these beings means their timescales are completely different, aren't they, as well? But I mean, it just made me chuckle all the way through, along with the Metatron "Don't Be So Wet" line, just because of how it was delivered. Yes. I would say technically on a script that's not even supposed to be funny. It's probably not even funny to 99% of the people that watch it, but just the way Metatron delivered that line to all these panicky angels after Gabriel's gone AWOL, I was just like, that's kind of hilarious.
It's the power of Derek Jacobi.
Yeah. No nonsense. Just stop it. Pull yourself together.
Yes.
Kind of line. But great stuff, Lara.
Absolutely. And great to hear from you. Hopefully we'll have Chris back for maybe season 3 of Good Omens. As we know, Chris is dealing with his own little Armageddon at home with his little baby.
Yes. His angel of chaos.
His own angel of chaos. Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks again, Laura. On Facebook, Kelsey Oak says, "You will certainly bawl your eyes out. I guess now you know what the word every means. I'm sending you 2 hugs in advance." Thank you, Kelsey.
Well, thanks, Kelsey.
Yes, I think the tissue count was quite high on this one.
I think so.
And I think the ending, it was drawn out even more with the credits rolling between the lovers torn apart.
Exactly. Cheryl Jones says, "Wow, that sure took an unexpected turn. Was there something in the coffee? So very sad."
It probably should have been brandy after that ending, to be honest, Cheryl.
Instead of a shot of caramel in the oat milk latte.
Fake caramel sugar. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Was there maybe something that Metatron put in the coffee?
Could have been. Maybe. Could have been. Jeff Giles has a different take on the finale. What a waste of great performances. That ending was a huge letdown. The big mystery was a big meh. I won't be watching season 3.
Oh no,
Jeff. Come back. All is forgiven. Would you even be tempted for watching season 3? Let's hope the devil on your shoulder tempts you towards season 3.
Yeah. That's such a shame that you didn't enjoy it, Jeff. Maybe, as John says, when it comes around to season 3, you may have watched it again and changed your mind, or maybe you'll give it a go when there's a different storyline in the 3rd season. But thanks so much for sending in your thoughts, Jeff. We also got a message in from Dr. Bob Phillips, who says, "This was heartbreaking and wonderful and achingly difficult to leave like this. If the 3rd season gets novelized, there has to be an audiobook with Tennant and Sheen reading it. The whole of the bookshop battle was superb. The idiocy of the invite, the extensive use of fire extinguishers, the mindlessness of the demons, and the extruded explosive. To wrap up the whole Gabriel Beelzebub story in its beautiful, poignant, Edinburgh-encrusted gorgeousness, including the most romantic of record-destroying miracles, was done with such a lovely, concise shorthand. I felt like a televersion of a double-page spread of panels giving snapshots through time. And then the love that dare not express itself, finally ineffable, effed and unable to be accepted, finishing, like staged, with 2 landscape screens filled with the faces of the heaven-crossed lovers. And that's not mentioning the musical cues, the unchanging passwords, the Machiavellian Metatron master, and the subtle choice of the Crow Road to nudge Muriel towards an appreciation of humanity as they begin their task and babysit the bookshop.
Yes, of course. Yes, The Crow Road by Ian M. Banks.
Yes, that's the book that Muriel is reading outside. Yeah, very good. Very good.
A Scottish sci-fi author.
I wouldn't have got that connection. Great call out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff, Dr. Bob. So glad you enjoyed this, because it was wonderfully heartbreaking and difficult to leave it like this, as you say. But I think hopefully the third season will get televised first off before it being novelised. But if it gets novelised, yes, an audiobook with those two dulcet tones reading it would be superb. Yeah.
It would be perfect, yes. But the commitment is that it will get out there somehow, right? Regardless. So if it's not going to be a TV show, it will definitely be in a book.
Yes, absolutely.
Good stuff.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob, for all your feedback for this episode and, of course, throughout the season. We also had Jules van der Leyden, who said, after the finale, I was screaming, crying, and throwing up. Well, Jules, we hope you've stopped crying, and we certainly hope you've stopped throwing up as well. Hopefully it was just a little throw up from that, but certainly, yes, it was an ending that shook people.
Yes, it was. It was, absolutely.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jules.
Thanks so much, Jules. We also got a last-minute email in from Jennifer Aft, who says, hi folks, I've been enjoying the Good Omens podcast very much, as it's so nice to hear intelligent and insightful analysis of the show from people who love it as much as I do. I have a comment about the last episode of season 2 though. I've read and heard descriptions of Aziraphale and Crowley sharing a kiss. I would like to note that the kiss is not exactly shared, as Crowley forcefully kisses Aziraphale without his consent. Of course, this is just what you would expect from a demon, but I want to put it out there that this incredibly intense scene is not an example of two people sharing a kiss. If you're thinking of kissing someone in the future, please tuck that piece of information away for future use, says Jen. Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we say, it is that moment. It's not done in the way that fans would have expected it. It's done in the moment where Crowley is severing the relationship between him and Aziraphale. It's that final moment where he's effectively pushing him away with a kiss in the scene. But I don't think that's what fans were expecting when they were saying, we hope the two of them finally get together in season 2. You know,
exactly.
It certainly wasn't going to be that.
Well, you know, Aziraphale says nothing lasts forever, and Crowley says, no, I don't suppose it does. You know, just before Crowley says, you idiot, we could have been us.
Exactly.
And goes for this. It felt like a one last chance. And yeah, I mean, you have Aziraphale touching his lips. Like, it's almost as though what's just happened. He's kind of bemused by it or surprised by it.
Again, remember, Nina and Maggie had the talk with Crowley. They didn't have the talk with Aziraphale. And throughout the season, when anybody broached that topic with Aziraphale, while we understand that Aziraphale does love Crowley, he hasn't accepted it himself at all. Exactly. He hasn't declared his love for Crowley at any stage throughout this season. So, yeah, very, very good point there made, Jen.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Jen. Finally, we also have a voicemail in from Anwin in New Zealand.
Yes, we do. Anwin called all the way up to us after starting season 2 of the show just a couple of weeks ago. Take it away, Anwin.
Hi, Derek and John. What an absolute emotional roller coaster that final episode was. Loved it so much. And I love all of the little unexpected quirks. I thought it was great that Nina and Maggie kind of emotionally recognised each other, but also accepted that Nina wasn't ready for a relationship yet. It made it much more realistic. I absolutely adored Beelzebub and Gabriel. What a cool story. I didn't expect that at all. And then looking back, you realise, oh yeah, there was a little fly that had a huge part to do with it, and I still didn't click, but it was beautiful, lovely to watch. And then at the very end, oh my God, Aziraphale and Crowley, so heartbreaking, so incredible. Of course, you kind of wanted them to get together, but I think it did make a better story and just more heart-wrenching and beautiful and tragic that they didn't. The acting is just superb. The writing, I love the status quo. It's so static and quo-y. And just the acting in that final couple of scenes, David Tennant and Michael Sheen just knocked it out of the park. Their facial expressions just expressing so much. so much emotion and being so torn and heartbroken, and it was just fantastic. I'm emotionally wrung out. Loved it. It was really great as well, having watched season 1 so recently, to see the little flashback of the first Armageddon and all our favourite characters from back then. Thank you so much for your incredible coverage. I've really, really enjoyed going along on this journey with you. And my last thing to say to you guys is I think you should become ineffable husbands sooner than later, and that New Zealand is the absolute ideal location for a honeymoon. Bye.
Excellent stuff, Anwin. Thank you so much for the feedback. Really glad you enjoyed our coverage. And certainly, it was such a roller coaster ride. A big thank you for the offer of New Zealand. Yes. Come on, Derek, get the tickets. Chop.
New Zealand is definitely on the list for a place to visit, whether it's for our honeymoon or whether it's just for our own holiday in the future. We will definitely be going to New Zealand. I want to go back, and John's never been.
No.
And as a big Lord of the Rings fan, he would be dying to see every single location used for Lord of the Rings, I think.
Absolutely. Certainly Rohan, in particular Edoras. My powers of Lord of the Rings and being a geographer, that location was just spectacular. I guess there's obviously nothing there left, but yeah, that was just superb. And Helm's Deep, some of the sort of establishing shots around there, just so good. But I mean, all of it is just so, like, such a pretty country, and certainly from a geographer's point of view, lots of things like glaciers and mountains.
Absolutely.
You know, I quite like that.
I did tell you that Anwin was an extra in
you did.
Lord of the Rings and worked at Edoras. So she's been in the full version of that.
Wow.
How cool is that?
That's very cool.
It's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your thoughts, Anwin. I'm glad you were able to take the ride with us and get to the finale along the same time as us. That's really cool as well. Great stuff. And thanks for joining us, to everybody, for this season of Good Omens, for season 2 of Good Omens.
Yes, we will be back with Good Omens season 3, which was in development when the writers and the actor strike began. So when we will be back, we don't have that crystal ball yet.
Nope.
But when finally the studios agree a deal, we hope that Amazon is quick to pen a deal with Neil Gaiman to go on the season 3 journey with him. And hopefully it will be to allow all us fellow angels and demons to go on that journey of season 3 as well.
Absolutely. Hopefully it won't be 4 years between the two seasons like it was between season 1 and 2.
That's true. That's true. But worth the wait.
Exactly.
As this is the last episode of Good Omens, it's just a reminder, and we, of course, would love you to subscribe to any godly or devilish podcast player over on tvpodcastindustries.com, so you can subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, grannies, and grandfathers, because, of course, sharing the podcast is, of course,
sharing the love. Yeah, and you'll find loads of our podcasts over on tvpodcastindustries.com. We're coming up on 800 episodes, and this week alone, we're covering Ahsoka, the Star Wars show. We're starting our coverage of Wheel of Time season 2, and of course, finishing our coverage of Good Omens this week. So lots and lots of stuff over there on tvpodcastindustries.com. And if you're only subscribed to the Good Omens podcast, you won't see any of it.
Yes, so make sure you subscribe to the main feed, TV Podcast Industries, to get all the content that we have.
Yeah.
We are also over on patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, as well as buymeacoffee.com/TVPI.
Absolutely. A huge thank you once again to Jason Kabasi and Podcastica.com.
Absolutely.
Check them out for other podcasts for TV shows you might be interested in. They're currently podcasting The White Lotus, and really interestingly, they're covering the last episode of season 1 of The White Lotus this week as well, John. They're hitting the finale of that show.
Very good.
A big, big episode. If you've been watching along, I'm sure you're very intrigued to how that show's going to end, because that ending, I remember it being massively shocking and loving it. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say about it.
Definitely.
Also, go check out Run for Your Lives with Daphne and Paik, which is covering movies that would make you run for your life. This week, they are celebrating 3 years podcasting with a wild 1980 creature feature, Alligator, starring Robert Forster.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
I love creature features.
I know, and this is based on the wonderful urban legend of an alligator flushed down the toilet that 13 years later wreaks havoc in New York.
Very good.
Sounds like it's going to be fun.
Love it. Totally outrageous, but I love it.
They don't do them better than they did in the 80s, do they?
Exactly. Great stuff. Well, fellow demons and angels, remember we will be back with a Star Wars Ahsoka as well as Good Omens Season 3, hopefully in a shorter time than 4 years.
Yes.
We will also be coming back with The Wheel of Time, as Derek has said. And, of course, don't forget Sandman Season 2.
Yeah, if you're looking for more Neil Gaiman, watch Sandman. If you haven't watched it at all yet, first season is available on Netflix. We've covered every episode as well on the podcast.
Yeah, come and join us on TV Podcast Industries for Sandman Season 2. But, of course, in the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, and remember, the apocalypse is coming, so grab your hard hat, Dr. Bob Phillips. Bye.